Hello, everyone. Thank you. Please join me in giving another round of applause for our university presidents. My name is Alyssa Brown, and I'm a program manager here on the International Dialogues team at the World Food Prize Foundation. Our team recognizes that alleviating food insecurity takes a local and global approach, as was mentioned in our previous sessions. That's why we are so grateful to have with us today 3 incredible speakers representing John Deere for our next session. With me on stage, we have Nate Clark, President of the John Deere Foundation and Global Director of Corporate Social Responsibility and Community Engagement. I'd also like to introduce Laura Eberlin, Global Corporate Social Responsibility Lead in Community Engagement and Enrichment for Deere & Company. Also, last but not least, we have with us Hans Schnekloth, a 6th-generation Iowa farmer. He is president of Sunnyview Farms, vice president of Schnekloth Farms, and the board president of Tapestry Farms. So Nate, Laura, Hans, welcome. Please take it away.
Well, thank you, Alyssa, for that lovely introduction. Again, my name is Laura Eberlin, and I am a Global Corporate Social Responsibility Lead at John Deere. I know that's a mouthful. In my role, I direct the John Deere Foundation's work to eliminate hunger around our home communities around the world by strengthening food systems. I know I can speak for Hans and Nate when I say that we are truly humbled to be here at the World Food Prize Hall of Laureates in the presence of such inspiring humanitarians, hunger fighters, and community leaders, including Dr. Estes. Thank you, Ambassador Branstad, for allowing us to join you. Iowa is a special state to each of us. So I have lived in Iowa my entire life, and I am proud to call the University of Northern Iowa my alma mater. It was so lovely to meet you, Mr. Nook. I'm also proud to work for John Deere. While we started in Illinois, there is no denying that Iowa is John Deere's home as well. Today, John Deere employs over 20,000 employees across Iowa and close to our borders. Our business, our workforce, and our economy and the economies we support can be measured in billions of dollars each year in this great state. Our success is only due to our customers like Hans with us today first and foremost, which in turn creates gainful and rewarding employment for many, who in turn pay taxes, invest in college tuition, go to coffee shops, and so much more. Nate, Hans, and I represent thousands of Iowans whose lives are made economically, socially, and environmentally better through our shared connections to John Deere and the agricultural community we serve. But in a place where we have some of the world's most skilled farmers, and they're stewarding millions of acres of some of the world's most fertile soils, we still have a hunger problem. Nearly 240,000 Iowans, including over 68,000 children, suffer the harm and indignity of hunger. Why does hunger matter to John Deere? Because in the words of Dr. Borlaug, we have served farmers who for many years have been fighting in a quiet, oftentimes losing war on the food production front. John Deere has been in this fight for 186 years. Please allow me to share some history. As Ambassador Quinn knows well, John Deere's history flows from Vermont to Illinois. There in Grand Detour, the cast iron plow gave way to the self-scouring steel plow, which permitted farmers to start livelihoods in the middle of North America. The horse-drawn plow gave way to the tractor, which dramatically accelerated farm productivity, allowing farmers all over the world to take more to market. Today, with the fusion of mechanization, robotics, AI, and other technologies, farmers like Hans have the chance to do even more, contributing to economic, social, and environmental gains on a truly global scale. Yet with all of these advancements and productivity gains around the world, nearly 735 million people faced hunger last year. That is more than 122 million before the pandemic. And while John Deere's journey over the last 2 centuries is global, we always remember our roots and those who make our success possible. Here in Iowa, hunger is also higher than before the pandemic. More than 1 in 10 adults report that they did not have enough food to eat, or often did not have food to eat in the last 7 days. Why is this? As we have worked with farmers all around the world, we have learned that hunger is not always a consequence of a lack of food production. Growers, particularly in countries like the United States, can produce enough food to nourish us all. A key problem is that many people, including our neighbors, do not have equitable access to nutritious food or have land access or own land. Our food system simply does not work for everyone, particularly for families struggling in poverty and economic vulnerability. To borrow more of Dr. Borlaug's words, this amounts to criminal negligence if we permit hunger when we can create granaries of reserve food for use in case of need. We learned this the hard way amid the farm crisis in the early 1980s. It is no coincidence that during this time, our visionary humanitarians and hunger fighters helped create food banks across Iowa during this terrible time. The Northeast Iowa Food Bank and the Food Bank for the Heartland were founded in 1981. Food Bank of Iowa and Riverbend Food Bank founded in 1982, and Haycat Food Reservoir founded in 1983. John Deere played a key role to help create and sustain food banks during this early time. John Deere employees and their families, including my own family, whose sole breadwinner was laid off for over 2 years during this time, depended upon them. They have remained open and have grown since, providing nutrition, support, and dignity for countless Iowans. It is our food banks that have helped create new and equitable food distribution channels for food. Food banks optimize large-scale delivery of vital nutrition from farmers, retailers, and others to those experiencing hunger. Each year in the United States, nearly 120 billion pounds of food is wasted. That is a staggering 40% of food in America. That equates to 130 billion meals and more than $408 billion in food thrown away each year. Today in Iowa, food banks are rescuing tons of nutritious food, the equivalent of many millions of meals for Iowans. These granaries of nutrition do more than feed those experiencing hunger. They feed an entire network of nonprofit organizations who for many years have been fighting a quiet, oftentimes losing war on the battle of poverty and social justice. Our Iowa food banks deliver food to over 2,000 nonprofit organizations. These partners are high-needs schools, senior living centers, discrete food pantries housed in our most vulnerable neighborhoods, and pantries where people go to when times are the toughest, like church pantries. When food brings people into these organizations, it also allows them to benefit from a wide range of other social services. As Dr. Borlaug stated, we must recognize the fact that adequate food is only the first requisite for life. For a decent and humane life, we must also provide an opportunity for good education, remunerative employment, comfortable housing, and effective and compassionate medical care. Food banks support the organizations that do all of these things. Understanding the importance of food banks, what have we done? Just this year alone, the John Deere Foundation has donated over $4 million and unrestricted and capacity building grants to support our Iowa food banks to help close our meal gap. Using the food bank statistics, this is nearly 12 million meals served here in Iowa. But just as the farm crisis helped drive the creation of food banks, COVID-19 and the more recent economic volatility has revealed that we must think differently about our food systems. In fact, it was World Food Prize laureate Rattan Lal who helped shine the way by urging us all to strengthen the growth of local agricultural capabilities through home gardening and urban agriculture. As we began exploring this, we were pleased to meet Tapestry Farms and Hans. Please allow me to welcome Hans now to the podium.
Well, thanks, Laura, for those kind words, and thanks to Ambassador Branstad and the World Food Prize Foundation for hosting this event not during harvest season. My family would love to tell you about the times of year when I have to say no to pretty much anything unless it's a quick meeting in the field. I am humbled to be here in a special place surrounded by so many people that I admire deeply, including Anne McGlynn. I'll talk more about her in just a bit, I promise. As Laura kindly shared, my family has farmed near Eldridge, Iowa for 6 generations, or more than 150 years. Over that time, we have transitioned from a livestock and grain operation to a strictly grain farm producing corn and soybeans on about 3,000 acres. Our main distinction that I'm always proud to talk about is that we are a 100% never-till operation. This means that many of our fields have not had a tillage tool like a plow or a chisel run over them for 30 or 40 years. We have also begun to implement cover crops and alternative fertilizer sources into our rotation to reduce erosion, suppress weeds, and improve overall soil health. Like many generational growers in the state, we feel a duty to ensure the prosperity of generations to come. But you see, we don't actually believe that we are the ones solving hunger. You might be a little surprised to hear me say that. In fact, I sometimes get uncomfortable when somebody finds out that I'm a farmer and they tell me thank you, as if I'm doing some kind of service work, more worthy of praise than any other human and the work that they are doing. I know there are other farmers here today, and I believe they would share similar sentiments, at least the farmers that we conventionally think of when we drive down the highway and see fields of corn and soybeans. But there are other kinds of farmers who are unconventional and in urban settings, and they're not thought of in this way, but they very much deserve the credit. Because of those things, I always try to be clear about this. What I'm doing is running a business, much like other businesses, and the business of agriculture has changed in very significant ways over the years. The grain that I grow goes all over the world, and it's part of a complex and global economy and food system. It's true that I grow food, but I'm not solving hunger directly and locally. Other people do, and I'm proud to support and serve them. In fact, that's what brought me here today. Over 6 generations, my family has served our communities in ways that we have come to appreciate the challenges that our neighbors face, including hunger, and who truly solves them. And we have come to believe that we must roll up our sleeves, even during the busiest times, to lend a hand. If I can talk about that history for a little bit, I would like to. My grandfather, Hugo, I just talked to Ambassador Branstad earlier, served in the state legislature from 1977 to 89. And he and my grandmother, Mildred, spent much of their time serving in various local and state organizations. I also learned a great deal about community service from my father, John. He served on the County Farm Bureau Board as president and on our Farm Credit Board of Directors. He was also president of a local Christian camp called Camp Shalom and guided them through becoming an independent camp that serves kids of various backgrounds from the area. My mother, Cindy, was a school teacher when I was growing up and continues to be involved in so many community and national organizations it's hard to keep up. But I'm also particularly proud of my wife, who served as a teacher in the Davenport Community School District. And now that our children are all in full-day school, she is already coming up with many ways to serve our community. But it was in late 2017 that I got a phone call from Ann regarding her vision of starting a nonprofit organization called Tapestry Farms. I think she had one of those somebody oughta moments that Secretary Nag talked about earlier. She wanted to reclaim underutilized land in the Quad Cities to strengthen urban farming, specifically helping refugees alleviate their own food insecurity and make a living through farming. And she was calling to ask me to serve on the board. Now, the year 2017 was a little busy for me and my family. In addition to my day job, we were raising a 1-year-old daughter, and we had just found out we were having twins. Now, if you think harvest season is busy, the prospect, I assure you, the prospect of twins makes harvest season seem calm by comparison. They're now 5 years old, so I'm on the other side. But there was something about Tapestry Farms that really spoke to me. That involved farming, it was local, it was global, and I happen to love both grassroots and global work, and I believe that both of those things have to work together if we wish to make a better world, and in this case, a better fed world. With the support of my wife and quickly growing family, I said yes, and I'm really glad that I did. I recently had a chance to speak with students at a local elementary through Junior Achievement, and my best advice for them was to find ways to say yes, to help others and to grow as a person. When I think of Junior Achievement, I am often reminded of something Dougal Nelson, the president of our local chapter, taught me. He suggested that nonprofits should not be defined by what they are not doing, in this case, making a profit, but rather they should be defined by what they are doing and called for impacts. And I really love that idea. And boy, has Tapestry Farms made an impact. Since our founding in 2017, we've worked with approximately 85 refugee families who now live in the Quad Cities. Most of them come from East and Central Africa. Others come from Afghanistan, Haiti, and Guatemala. Our farm, which now extends to 8 sites in the Quad Cities, runs due to the paid work of 2 women who are former refugees, as well as summer interns, over 300 volunteers, and of course, Ann. Tapestry Farms participates in the USDA's Local Food Production Assistance Cooperative Program, which I think Secretary Nag also said was kind of a mouthful, the LFPA. And we are paid to deliver the produce that we grow to food pantries in the Quad Cities. This has been absolutely vital as food banks struggle to procure more food than ever and have been finding a greater need. This year, Tapestry Farms has already delivered 4,000 pounds of fresh produce into the community food system. But Tapestry Farms grows more than nutritious food. 3 people work as community navigators at Tapestry Farms, supporting refugees in the areas of housing, education, work, medical and mental health care, transportation, basic needs, connecting in the community, and citizenship. And speaking of citizenship, 12 people who are part of Tapestry Farms have become U.S. citizens. What an impact. Please join me in giving a round of applause to Ann for making this possible. There are, of course, many others who deserve credit for saying yes to Tapestry Farms, past and current members of the board, staff members, volunteers, countless community mentors, and of course our donors. So while I am a John Deere customer and I value their equipment, their technology, and their dealer network, and I certainly know they do, I now have a deeper appreciation for John Deere because of their sense of corporate social responsibility. The gift of an unrestricted grant to Tapestry Farms to buy a hydroponic growing unit sets a really great model for how to get resources into the hands of those who are really doing the work of feeding people in our communities. Now allow me to introduce Nate Clark from Deere to talk more about that.
Thank you, Laura and Hans. My name is Nate, and I am the Global Director of Corporate Social Responsibility at John Deere, and I am the President of the John Deere Foundation. Please allow me to echo Laura and Hans's gratitude for the opportunity to be here in such a special place with such dear friends. Now, yeah, pun intended, I guess. You always have to watch out for that. Any references to deer or green, those will always have many meanings. So one of the reasons that I am so proud to be an Iowan is that it was an Iowan who defined and advocated for the concept of corporate social responsibility nearly 70 years ago. In 1953, Howard Bowen published a truly groundbreaking work entitled The Social Responsibilities of the Businessman. Bowen earned his PhD in economics from the University of Iowa in 1935, and he would eventually become the president of Grinnell College and the University of Iowa in the 1950s and 60s. On the 70th anniversary of Dr. Bowen's work, I would like to remind us of his contributions and listen to his voice. More importantly, in honor of Dr. Estes and in the home that Dr. Borlaug, Ambassador Quinn, and others helped build, I would like to create a powerful duet between the voices of Drs. Borlaug and Bowen to contend that the foremost corporate social responsibility is the elimination of hunger. For Dr. Borlaug's voice, I will use his 1970 Nobel lecture. First, both visionaries were dedicated to 4 interrelated concepts: morality, self-interest, higher education, and equity. They were both driven by a deep sense of morality and moral tradition informed by their religious backgrounds. Dr. Borlaug's most famous quotation is, without a doubt, and I quote, "The first essential component of social justice is adequate food for all mankind." Food is the moral right of all who were born into the world. As an aside, has there ever been a clearer or more powerful moral statement than this? At the heart of corporate social responsibility for Dr. Bowen is also morality. He states, and I quote, "Morality is one of the foundations for all economic life. That morality is basic to economic organization has been well understood, at least by philosophers and religious leaders, during most of world history." Second, to self-interest. Their sense of morality helps identify for Drs. Borlaug and Bowen not only what is right, but what is also a vital self-interest, something that is distinct from mere selfishness. Dr. Borlaug states that the elimination of hunger is a necessary condition to local and global peace. And I quote again, "Without food, man can live at most but a few weeks. Without it, all other components of social justice are meaningless. If you desire peace, cultivate justice, but at the same time, cultivate the fields that produce more bread. Otherwise, there will be no peace." Dr. Bowen similarly argues that American capitalism and the freedoms that it unleashes depend upon economic, social, and environmental peace to prosper. I quote, "On one thing we can be definite: the unrivaled freedom of economic decision-making for millions of private businessmen, which characterizes our free enterprise system, can be justified not if it is good merely for the owners and managers of these enterprises, but only if it is good for our entire society. If those who exercise freedom are unwilling and unable, even with the best of rationalizations, to relate their private decisions and actions to the attainment of social objectives, that freedom is in jeopardy." Third, to higher education. The exploration and pursuit of societal issues depends upon the strength of higher and continuing education, blending science, business, and humanity. Again, Dr. Borlaug cannot be clearer to us. Quote, "The quality of scientific leadership is certainly a vital factor in the success of any production campaign. Education and research institutions have the moral obligation to serve agriculture and society also. And to discharge that obligation honorably, They must try to help educate scientists and scientific leaders whose primary motivation is to serve humanity. Dr. Bowen is equally clear when discussing the role of business education. Quote, "A great majority of business educators agree that a relatively broad education is desirable for business leaders in modern society, and that an indispensable task of the business school is to prepare future leaders to comprehend their social role and to accept their social responsibilities." Fourth and lastly, let's turn to equity. Both Drs. Borlaug and Bowen stress the need for equity and the consideration and participation of others. For me, Dr. Borlaug's attention to the forgotten world is particularly inspiring and provocative. He states, quote, "It is a sad fact that on this earth, at this late date, there are still two worlds, the privileged world and the forgotten world. For the underprivileged billions in the forgotten world, hunger has been a constant companion, and starvation has all too often lurked in the nearby shadows. As Laura rightly mentions, these shadows lurk not only halfway around the world, but within feet of where we stand and sit today." For Dr. Bowen, corporate social responsibility requires those in business to consider those they never see because of the inescapable interdependence of complex modern society. For my last quote, "Today, our neighbors are not merely those near whom we live or those whom we see in our daily work. Our neighbors are scattered throughout the country and the world. The greater the power or influence of any person or group, the larger the number and more remote will be the persons whose lives he or they will affect." So, what do we do now that we've heard this harmonic duet? Well, to belabor the metaphor, let's choose to move to it. I would like to pose several challenges to this esteemed audience, and particularly the business leaders here. First, let's voluntarily adopt the belief that food is the moral right to all Iowans born in this great state. If you are a business leader in search of a corporate social responsibility strategy, you have now found one in the elimination of hunger and the support of our food systems. This is what we've done at John Deere. Let's unashamedly embrace the notion that equitable access to safe and nutritious food is good for each of us. It protects peace, it secures free enterprise, and of course, it helps our neighbors and the growers upon whom everyone in this state utterly depends. As another aside, when we have surveyed our own communities about which causes matter most to them, the only cause that resonates across religious, political, or other belief is the elimination of hunger. Let's acknowledge that we must engage our world-class higher education institutions in not only ending hunger through science and research, but instilling humanity and justice in all academic pursuits. I am very proud of Iowa because of our state schools and the legacy of humanity and justice they represent and embody, including in the wonderful students, researchers, and faculty here. Let's empower those with the expertise and passion for ending hunger with the trust and the resources to find the best solutions. This is a simple solution to many of the complex problems, but here you go. Let's give more money and give it more freely to food bankers, growers, and of course, organizations like the World Food Prize. Through this act of trust, we will help ensure that we never forget those who experience hunger. Today, the John Deere Foundation is giving more money and giving it more freely than ever before. As Laura notes, this is $4 million in new direct cash commitments this year alone in Iowa and the Iowa-Illinois Quad Cities, which is a new record for us, and we know more can be done. We believe we are the largest such corporate or foundation donor in Iowa, and we challenge other businesses to do the same. Lastly, and most importantly, can we please work together to make an actual plan and set a date certain for when we can change the name of this amazing event from the Iowa Hunger Summit to the Iowa Ends Hunger Summit. We look forward to working with you on that plan and contributing to that long overdue event. Thank you.